That's how we start every podcast.
Okay.
Well, there's a Toyota Tacoma.
Indestructible.
What are you driving these days, Jace?
I am
Okay.
driving a 2019 Jetta.
Welcome to Mission
GLI.
Stories. Hey,
Oh.
zip it. Sorry about that, everyone. Welcome to Mission Stories. My name is Troy. This is a podcast where we talk about any which thing, Mormon related or otherwise.
There's only two things you can talk about in this world.
Mormon or otherwise. The world is split into two things, two categories, Mormon or otherwise, and we cover both of them. Welcome to our guest, Jace Gurr. Welcome.
Why, thank you. Thank
Jace,
you.
is that a fossil watch you got on?
It is indeed. I just want to start off by saying Troy and Lyndon in the morning.
I was going to be like, ooh, taking control already.
You just want to do what now, Jace?
Button your lips until we tell you to talk. How about that?
Yes, sir.
There will be no more jingles.
There will be no more interjections, okay? This isn't what this is. And I'm sorry you didn't realize that before we started this.
My apologies, Master.
And I would ask you to continue to call me Master. Thank you. Welcome to the show. We got Lyndon here at the end of the couch, too.
Yeah.
Your
me.
talking privileges are more liberal.
It's, though often, depending on the guest,
Yeah.
I can't get a word in edgewise.
Or you don't exercise the option.
Or
But
I
also
just
sometimes
sit
you
there.
can't. Yeah, you sort of.
We're just getting used to this.
Yeah. We're just, we're 3 years in and we're trying things out,
Yeah.
Still in the kiddie pool.
Yeah. Dude, you're
Speaking of...
looking good. I like how you're doing
The beatbox hold.
you're rocking the mic well. I can hear you.
I don't
good.
know. I don't know if you're going to be able to sustain that, but I mean, like your technique,
What
your
is-
Flawless. 10
your
out of 10.
technique is the best that I've ever seen.
Yeah. And
Like-
and
I was born for this.
we could literally put anything into so it's like we could just clip in anything and then just sit have you say it because you're covering your mouth completely, which I don't know why you're doing that. That's a mystery to me,
But it's working.
but I like it a lot.
Speaking of 3 years in,
Yeah.
Jace, what are you doing here? Are you a fan of this
Who are
podcast?
you?
What's your story? What's your interest in us?
That is a great question.
What's your relation to us?
You're not a
Well-
day oneer.
No, I'm a late adopter. I think I've been listening for, probably over 2 years now, but I was definitely a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to listening to you guys. I remember you had actually
that's
given
okay.
Lyndon had given me the first episode before you guys had put it out, and then I think subsequently basically destroyed that one, or didn't you just or just heavily edited it
Well,
afterwards? I don't know.
I was just doing some guerrilla marketing of a certain bootleg episode, trying
And that's our
trying to
first one?
create buzz.
You were doing a good job, yeah. What happened to that zeal you used to have, Lyndon?
Well, I was in YSA,
Well,
and
I cared about.
and anyone I would
things.
talk to, I would be like, "Hey, you like podcasts?
Yeah.
I got a podcast for you. Do you like me? You don't even have to like podcasts. You can either like podcasts or you can like me.
Yeah,
Then
but
check
not
it
both.
out." And now I'm married, and there's been a pandemic, and I don't speak to anyone.
Right.
So my marketing of the podcast has significantly decreased.
And your Instagram account got deleted because of all the spam comments you used to leave.
I don't know about that. I kept trying to pump cryptocurrency.
Yeah, you try.
Kept running pump and dump schemes
Your spam
On-
comments trying to enter contests
on
and
altcoins.
tag your friends in altcoin contests.
get those Doge coins.
Get one free dog coin. Tag all
Yeah.
your friends.
Yeah.
Instagram.
I was like, do you want 10,000 coins put into your wallet? Repost this 1,000 times to all your friends.
And you weren't asking. You were more you're commanding them. And so that's a no-no, right? That's right in the terms
Yeah.
of service.
Yeah, and there's threats
please do not threaten, our member base with, violence.
Where I'm like,
And words
I've
are
matched
violence.
the color of the paint in your bedroom. I know which Home Depot you bought it from. I will find you.
I know where you live.
I have the skills.
I'm going to dox you if you don't buy 10,000 Lyndon coins. You, invented it. You haven't, figured out the logistics yet, but you got the name and you got a website.
I haven't contracted a coder to code the coin.
It piggybacks off the Ethereum network. It's fine.
Work in progress.
you
Work
know.
in progress.
So that's how my guerrilla marketing career ended.
So anyway, yeah, to close that loop. Okay, so you haven't.
I don't do that anymore.
Haven't done that in a while.
Okay, but Jace is a true and faithful.
Yeah.
I suppose you could say that. I mean, I have listened to every single episode, so I listened to that first one, and then it was several months later. I hadn't really heard anything about the podcast in a while, so I didn't know if that was going through or not. And then it was.
I remember you were our our seed influencer.
Oh, okay.
Because you were my outreach into the Edmonton market.
Okay.
And that did not work.
No
what do you
one
mean? I'm here.
seemed to care about that at all.
Jace is the only person in Edmonton.
Well, I'm the only one that matters in Edmonton.
I would
so-
agree.
That's
with
why we
that,
went to you
yeah.
first.
And last.
You're our first and
you were the
last
first
listener.
and the last person in Edmonton we wanted to listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're picky about who we get to try to listen to this thing, it's not for everyone.
Okay, I get
Oh,
it.
yeah,
So
we-
this is like an elitist
Yep.
type podcast.
Kind of
That's
like
right.
Lind
right.
coin.
Lind coin. Yeah, and if you want to be in on that, you talk to Lyndon.
Get in on the bottom floor, folks.
it might-
Not to be
Now's your
confused
shot.
with Don coin.
Which is a real coin. And
That one, we're
Is
doing
ran-
pre-sales.
on the idea,
Ran by the Mexican cartel.
altcoins now are sort of just based off of the name of the coin and how catchy it is.
Yeah.
And how many people we can convince to sort of jump on board at the ground level, and then we do all the rest of the work of making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Jace, let's get into it. What are you all about in regards to your feelings about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a.k.a. formerly known as the Mormon Church, now known as just the Church?
Known as what? _.
Ooh.
LDS. Yeah. What is it?
I don't even know.
They used to
_
have something good, and then I think
Christ's
they
Church.
changed it to make sure no one understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can get into
This
that.
isn't the church for the population. This is an exclusive church. Members only.
Now-
literally.
Now, what do you want to discuss? Do you have a beef?
Beef?
Do
No.
you have an agenda?
I
Do you
don't-
have a beef? Do you have? Do you want to call out anyone else in the podcast space? We need to drum up some drama to get some views here.
Well,
We're floundering.
okay. I mean,
barely
I have a just a random fact that
Okay.
Okay. So how Troy, how's my sister doing?
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah, we gotta cover that.
I'm not sure. We haven't spoken in a while. We did match on a if this is what you're referring to. We did match on a Mormon dating app called Mutual a while ago, and then we were chatting for a bit, and then we both. It's sort of just fizzled. I don't really know. It's we
Did
chat.
you steer her away, Jace?
We
No.
chat now and again. I don't know.
Actually, she did message me and ask me if I knew who Troy was. I don't remember how long ago that was. That was it was a couple months ago, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought this was years ago.
No,
This is
no,
recent.
it was
Fresh.
relatively recent. But
Yeah.
I just said the truth. Just said he was a megalomaniac and
A piece of crap.
No.
Swine.
no, just said that
Infidel.
I knew you were into sketches and did comedy and you had a YouTube channel and obviously this podcast and. Said I didn't know you particularly well, but you were a swell fellow. So
I appreciate that.
Pumped your tires. Sorry it didn't work, but
I think living on different continents is a problem.
Where
same
does-
continent.
where
Same
does-
continent. She lives in
Would
Hawaii.
you call that the same continent? It's
Actually,
an island.
that
She
is a
lives
good
on an
question.
island.
That is in Hawaii.
That's
fun
not
fact,
the North American continent.
She lives off the big land.
Legislatively, she's in North America.
Yeah, she's
geographically.
She's a part of the
I don't
United
think
States
so.
of America.
What would it be part? I mean, Hawaii is the world's
US.
most geographically isolated island in the world.
Is
Fun
that
fact.
true?
Yeah, it is. It is further away from like any other
Distance-wise.
island. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why it was so important in the World War II. You know,
In
It's
the
a little-
WW2.
It's a hop, skip. Whoever controls this little mid, you know, it's funny. There's an island called Midway. Did you know why it's called that? 'Cause
Midway
it's a
to
quarter
Hawaii.
of the way to Hawaii. Yeah, I don't know. It's literally midway between. I think it's Japan and Hawaii.
I mean, was it called Midway because of that beforehand, or?
Yeah, the Japanese who settled there call it. No, I don't know. I don't know if there were any settlers there.
I couldn't tell you.
Jace, do you know?
I do enjoy World War II history and all, but I
do
can't
too.
say I know why Midway is called Midway.
I know it's because it's of its position.
But was it? Did they name it that after World War II?
I
And they
think
were
so.
like,
I think
"Yo,
so.
Did it have a name prior to that?
I think they named it.
The indigenous people had a name for it, and we just
know-
stomped all over it.
probably."
Yeah, and now they're coming back with like, how could you take our name away from us? We're the noble island of. We don't know, but I think honestly it was just a Dwight D. Eisenhower, invention. General Ike Eisenhower.
Okay.
What, you're not interested in this, Lyndon?
Well, I'm just back. You're
You're like, okay, let's get back on course.
Jace, what's your sister's name?
I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose that.
Because I'm just like, let's see if we can reignite this.
I'll let
travel restrict. The pandemic's over.
Here's the thing. I told her about like my sort of unorthodox feelings about
Puppies.
church things, the church and Joseph Smith, polygamy, all these things, and just that I wasn't like a regular, Mormon, I suppose, and I don't really. It's kind of a kill buzz, you know what I mean? A buzzkill.
Yeah, my buzz is
Even.
killed.
Have actually kind of related to that. Have you guys read that like the Saints book that the church put out a couple years ago? There's like I think part 1, part 2, part 3. I think only
I've heard of them.
I've seen the book. It's
I was-
in my home.
I was a little beyond carrying it by the time that came out.
Well, didn't you read like Rough Stone Rolling?
I read Rough Stone Rolling.
so you've got clout.
I'd had my fill of like history. I knew that whatever the church put out was going to be sort of a condensed, watered down version of that. So I didn't read it. Have you read it?
I'm in the middle of reading the first one. I haven't read all of it yet, or the second, and I'm fairly certain there's at least 3 volumes. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm like well versed in church history by any means. But and the Saints book was I think it is a bit refreshing because like I know that there's a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation. Really, it's kind of like information that the church is somewhat I don't want to say withholding either. I don't know how to explain it. But
This is a safe. This
you
is a
can
safe
say whatever
space.
you
If
want.
you want to
Like,
say the church withholds
the church,
information,
the church
And no one listens
is
or
very
cares.
particular in the information that it releases.
True.
And and so reading that book so far, it's been interesting because I think it does a pretty decent job of kind of like humanizing Joseph Smith. I think he will be the first one to tell you that he made plenty of mistakes, and I think that book, like it's written kind of like a novel, so it's a lot easier to read than just like the official history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is like a
Right.
history textbook, and it's incredibly, incredibly dry. Actually, you had mentioned like you were trying to read the Silmarillion. Oh man, I tried doing that and that was brutal. I gave up.
The
But
Rough Stone Rolling of Lord of the Rings, basically. Where we like out Aragorn as like this rampant, wife beater, polygamist or something.
yeah, no, it was brutal. But
No,
the Saints, I think sometimes like you get kind of 2 different parties in that sense, where it's like you have the people who vehemently deny everything, or maybe not deny but defend everything, and then you have kind of like the people who are very critical, and so I think the book does a relatively good job at just showing that like he was a human. He was trying to figure out what the crap was going on either. I mean, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be the prophet at all, but especially Joseph Smith, where you don't have necessarily any sort of like footprint. You don't have any sort of examples.
You don't want to be a prophet?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a hard pass on that
He
one.
had examples. He took King Solomon as an example.
Yeah. Solomon.
Took inspiration
Okay,
from that.
I mean,
What are the other pervert prophets out there that we got? What was the bald guy? What was the bald guy's name? There was a bald guy.
Go
And
up thou
Oh, you
bald
made the
head, go up
bears?
thou
he
bald
sicked
head.
bears
Elisha?
on Elisha. Yeah.
Or is that Elias?
No, he was. I'm pretty sure he was Elisha.
Don't some scholars think they're really the same person?
Oh, you could find a scholar who's going to believe anything, Lyndon.
I'll get a scholar on the horn right now.
Get us a scholar. Ask him a question.
I'll just call my brother.
Yeah.
Do you think Elijah and Elias was the same guy?
Listen, I'm not saying, I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm a fool, and I'm not saying you are, Jace, and I'm not saying Lyndon is either, but I am. And okay, so you don't want to be a prophet, and in this book, this Saints book, does it kind of lead us into more of the bigger question of? You gave us a little bit of homework, perhaps.
Okay. I mean, that
We
wasn't
finished the homework.
That wasn't
we
even.
watched it.
I was just genuinely curious about your guys' thoughts on that. Like, if you thought they were
I got some notes for that podcast.
okay, by all means.
Yeah, our,
I mean,
our thoughts are not going to be what you're hoping for.
I don't necessarily have any sort of particular hopes regarding. I was
Well,
just
good,
curious.
because desire is the root of all suffering.
And evil. And shame on you for making us even walk down that road. No, but we so what's the podcast called?
The
Midnight
Mormons.
Mormons.
Yeah.
And so the episode that you had watched and you were curious of our opinion of it was dealing around this question of it's like of loyalty,
Authenticity versus loyalty.
wherein the previous generation, the boomers and before are very interested in loyalty, and after that Gen X and millennials and beyond,
And even the
the
Zoomies.
Zoomies are very interested in like authenticity. We want to know like the reality of a situation, and we're less inclined to listen to the official story. Perhaps we want to know. We're going to dig into. Maybe we'll listen to the official story, but we're going to dig in. We're going to double check. We're going to use this little thing called the World Wide Web to see if what claims are being made are actually true, which is different from the generations before, where that sort of mass spread of information was not widely available.
Well, I mean, you see that on Facebook all the time when it's generally older people that just like share a picture with words, and it's like, this is fact.
And that's the source, yeah.
It's like, oof, okay, yeah, no sources to verify this or back it up at all. A simple Google search proves 99.9% of them to be completely false. But yes, anyways, continue.
I mean, that's the idea. The guys on the podcast did a pretty good job of. I like how sincere they all are. They really are like. Lyndon's just completely disgusted by it. He wishes they would make more jokes.
Yeah, I turned it on and it's like I saw a Kwaku.
Kwaku L, I think. Yeah.
I was like, I know that guy. I follow him on the Twitters. And then the rest, they were like, it was like a serious Mormon podcast where they're like discussing these issues with like earnest.
The one guy,
and I was like, ugh.
There's one guy who I could barely stand, and that was the one who they're like, you're gonna be you're gonna be the prophet someday. And he's like, guys, I really think that we need to just be more obedient and buckle down and just do what they say. Pay more tithing.
And I was like, okay, boomer.
Yeah, I'm just over here like,
Except he was not
Hey,
even a boomer.
wake up. bro, wake up. Not wake up, but just like, I don't know. It just reminded me maybe of a past version of myself that was, not awake to a lot of the things that I would later become awoken to.
So you're woke is what you're saying.
I guess I'm woke. I guess I'm a woke guy.
It's got that third eye wide open.
Everyone's like, the main host, it was so funny to like watch these guys and sort of like, pick out the roles that each of us might play on on that show. I'm, the insufferable main host who makes,
and I'm trying to be like the cool black guy in the background.
And you're everyone else.
Why did you have to bring race into this?
Because that's who he is.
It's his identity. It's who he is. Just kidding, of course.
And
he's just
I'm
the cool
old
guy.
Dude.
You're like was he like a senator or something?
I don't even know who he is, in all honesty.
The old guy?
I think was his name.
I feel like
the boomer.
Well, ever since I clicked on that episode, YouTube keeps trying to recommend their videos to me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just like, okay, algorithm.
And
I feel like that old guy's on there a lot.
The titles are too earnest and sincere. I'm just like, give me a sort of backhanded approach to
something flippant.
Give me a flippant approach to serious topics. That's what I want.
And so, so part of my response is I'm disgusted by like that they're way more popular and successful than we are.
Yeah.
Because they do things completely different. So I hate that.
They are in Utah, I'm fairly certain, so that probably plays a significant role.
They have a line to toe. Do we have a line? I think we have a line to toe.
Yeah, like they have stories to tell where they're like, oh yeah, I talk to people that talk with apostles. They're like in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't name names. And they're like, well, you say off camera. Whereas like on our show, they're like, are you dating anyone? They're like, I won't say. And I was like, will you tell us off camera?
Hey, I mean, in all fairness, you didn't
smaller.
drop names about that bishopric member that just swore at you in Elders Court.
I thought you were going to drop
I will.
Another little news bit.
No, but I mean, obviously, I think they have a little bit more reach because Kwaku is like
Which one is that?
famous.
And doesn't he sort of work for the church?
Who's Kwaku?
He's the cool black guy.
Okay.
He's a convert.
But
he's cool.
He was also
he's black, and he's a convert.
And the moment he
he's
learned,
like the number one,
he was on
and he likes
Provo's
memes.
Most eligible. So there you go.
and the second
that
he
a
figured
show?
out that like he
Oh, yeah.
didn't have to wear garments all the time, he's like, wait a second, are you telling me? And they're like, Kwaku, keep your garments on. Now you may notice I'm wearing an adjusted top.
They're laser printed on the inside.
It's really hot. We're going through the
It's-
biggest heat wave of ever.
They're the
And,
military garments.
That's right.
Yeah.
These are the surfer dude garments. As long as your
Can only
nipples
get
are
them in-
covered, it's fine.
You know. Oh,
Right?
I would have just gotten stickers.
Can you imagine? You could be naked as long as you have the stickers on. The stickers.
Anyways, what was the point there?
Kwaku. He was my favorite guy. He
Yeah.
was my favorite guy. He had the most salient points. He was the most like with it, tuned in. He really ripped apart the church's like
Social
Social
media approach. I mean, it's true. I'm not even someone who like I don't have Instagram. I don't have Snapchat or Twitter or any of that stuff.
Why not?
I don't know. Never just.
I was kicked off for predatory comments. For my,
Wait, aren't you like a top fan
my
on
coin.
Facebook or something?
Of what?
Aren't you like?
our podcast?
Don't you get the little star next to your name whenever you comment on something?
On what?
Facebook.
That's only. I think that's you get that for like a page. Like if you comment on a page, you become a top fan. Not just like in general. They're like, oh, he's a top fan of Facebook. Let's give him a badge.
Well, I don't know how it works, Jace. I just see stars next to your name, like you're
Zuckerberg.
When-
just
like
you're a
like-
Facebook king.
I haven't actively used Facebook in months
How
and
about
months and months.
So you've repented of your Facebook ways.
Facebookery.
Yeah.
Because he used to be a pro Facebooker.
I used to, indeed. I used to use it quite a bit and then stopped. I just got tired of it, so I deactivated it in October, and I recently reactivated it just because I'm trying to sell stuff, and then I'll be deactivating it again.
Did you ever sell your Acura?
I did, yes. Actually, because of this No, I'm kidding. It had nothing to do with this podcast, but...
Did we shout your Acura out?
Like
Yes.
twice.
I don't even know...
Free advertising,
Yeah, I don't even know why...
Nothing's free. There's a cost to everything.
And now you're paying that cost in content.
And blood.
And blood, yeah, we did. And semen. And plasma.
And
We can just edit that out, right?
It's too much work.
We're going to leave it in. Sorry, moms.
Yeah, all you moms out there
Hey,
listening to
all the
this.
moms.
It's unfortunate.
Sorry. I'm the
I
bad boy of
wish.
podcasting. I'm the bad boy of Mormon podcasting.
Anyways, I
I'm
guess
not.
the point on that podcast
I'm the
was
good boy.
You are a good boy.
I'm the good boy of Mormon podcasting.
Different generations experience the church differently.
Mm-hmm.
And the church should change for that.
Where do you lie on the spectrum, Jace? Are you more
I'm heterosexual.
okay? And that's
going to be our next topic.
and that is what I was asking you. I was asking.
No, I mean, honestly, I can't say that I've, like, really, like, sat down and thought where I was on the, like, loyalty versus authenticity and stuff like that. But, I mean, I see, I guess, truth in both approaches and stuff. Like, I don't want to just blindly follow things just because it's the tradition. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think one good point that other podcast had brought up, and I think it was the older gentleman who said it. He said, like, for a church that prides itself on being, like, on starting because of like personal revelation, we sure seem to be resistant to change. And I think that's very true. I think we get stuck in our ways, and I can't stand church culture. Like, I love the gospel, I love gospel culture, but I can't stand church culture of, like, we're going to do things this way because this is the way we've always done it, and there's absolutely no, like, reasoning behind that even. I mean, that's to an extent even why I don't think I could ever go to BYU, is just, like, the honor code. I'm to each their own, but I just think that is ridiculous.
So do you have any other, like, firm examples of things where you're like, I'm done with that? Or, like, just like things that are the cultural items, that artifacts that are the way that they've always been done, and you're just like, have no patience for it.
I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily say that. Like, it's weird just because of COVID. Like, there's a lot of things where I haven't been able to participate in the church just because of COVID.
A deadly disease.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Or was it ever deadly? That.
It was 1% deadly. What are you, a friggin' truther over here? We got a conspiracy nut on our hands, Lyndon.
No.
We're just after the truth, that's all. Lab release.
Just
lab
listen,
release.
It's just honest.
It was 1%. It was 1% deadly. Huh?
And that's more than zero.
And it's a 99% survival rate, sure, but it's 1% deadly. And I won't have you joking about that on this podcast.
You're talking to a survivor.
I'm a gosh darn survivor, okay?
Troy
Yeah,
was
how you
in
doing
the
with that
trenches of COVID.
I was in the trenches of COVID. You got me?
You okay?
You get me?
Have you recovered?
It's. I wonder if they've gotten back to me. I actually want to take a vacation, and not. I don't know if this. It's not. It is coincidentally to Hawaii, and
Oh wow.
and you gotta be clean. You gotta be pure. It's like a bishop's interview, but for your body, and about COVID, and they want to know if you've been messing around with COVID again, And but they said, this is what they said, like up to, for a long time after, it could still show up on the tests. And so, but you need a clean test to get, to go over there, unless you want to quarantine for 14 days, which is not what I want to do. So anyway.
You can't visit Jace's sister in quarantine.
That's right. So I went.
The camera's doing the thing.
Okay, hold on.
We got some real fancy technology
And
here.
we're fancy here. So anyway, I sort of faked a couple symptoms. I was like, I went through the thing, and it was like, what are you experiencing these symptoms? And I was like, yeah, I had a fever in the last 10 days because I got the vaccine. And so then I got my free COVID test, and they stuck a thing up my nose. And
oh, yeah.
Which is much better than the throat.
The throat.
No, are you serious?
The nose is much better than the throat.
Well, wait, did they go up to your brain, or was it just the rim?
Went out my ear.
Because I got the one back.
Went out my eyeball.
No, seriously, they go so far up the nose.
Yeah.
It is extremely uncomfortable.
But you'd rather have that. You'd rather have them bopping your uvula, trying to make you throw up.
Would you rather them touch your brain with a Q-tip?
They're not touching your brain.
It was super far up there. It was not fun.
It's not your brain though. It's like your nasal cavity.
Well, it wasn't pleasant. I only got that one once.
Agree.
I had the throat one a couple times, but that was minor.
I was literally scared. I was getting so scared driving over there. I was like, it's gonna feel like I gotta throw up.
Jace is just over here flexing with his no gag reflex.
Show us. He's just like,
he's like,
swallows
I
the
love the throat test. I don't feel a thing. And it's like, okay, Jace.
Okay, we get it. You're really good at that for some reason. You don't. Okay.
Fine.
You're asking to get throat tested all the time. We don't. It's fine.
No,
Gotcha.
wait,
Do you think Midnight Mormons would, talk about that?
No, that guy's going to be an apostle soon.
Which one?
Brad?
Which one's Brad?
I don't know their names.
The main host?
No, that guy was insufferable.
It was the dude sitting beside Quake.
Can you imagine that guy at General Conference?
I liked when he went into joke mode. It was always like, and then I'm going to talk as loud as I possibly can. Did you notice that?
That's part of humor.
Talk really loud.
But it was too
That's
loud,
one of the
right?
main components of humor, isn't
It
it?
has to be fast and loud.
You just have to talk really loud.
I mean, that was funnier. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. It is funnier when it's... But there's a threshold. There's an uncanny valley, isn't there? Where it's if it's too loud and it's too fast, it's it's...
Well, no. I'm not saying what he did was wrong. I'm just saying, he's wrong because I think he's annoying.
Right, because of...
No.
I think when he was making sincere points, he did a good job. I just think, when he was trying to make... the jokes. I don't know. Are we going to tag them in this? I feel like we should.
I think you guys just sound bitter because they
they're
got
more-
more
we are.
followers. Yeah.
I'm extremely bitter. It's we know that we're 100 times better, and we have 100 times less the audience than them.
It's an injustice.
We need Kwaku on this
But also,
podcast.
they do a pretty good. They do a pretty good job.
I mean, they're in a studio. We're in my dinky little apartment.
But yeah,
I just got sad.
I guess their point was good. Is that what you wanted?
Is
this what you wanted from us, Jace?
What do you want
I
from
didn't
us,
have
Jace?
expectations or
You can't
hope.
just.
I was just curious
have
about
hope.
you. I appreciate Lyndon's views on a lot of
What
topics.
about my views?
What do you appreciate about
no-
Croy?
Why'd you have to
No
specify
comment.
Lyndon's
Because I've
views?
known Lyndon for a lot longer.
Fine.
I
I guess I'll just shut up over here.
And Jace has attended many of my Elders Quorum lessons.
Yes, and they were always. I will freely admit they were always some of my favorite Elders Quorum lessons. They were always very well presented, and I don't know. I definitely appreciated just the different points of view, the notorious Elders Quorum
Were
lesson
you there
that you
for
did.
that?
I was indeed. Yeah, yeah. I can't even remember if I had moved up to Edmonton already, and I just like I'd come down and visit family, and that I think I was visiting that Sunday, and just
it was a perfect story. Were you there for that one girl's mission farewell? It was like every dude in the city was in.
Who was it?
Brentwood's.
Was I there?
No, you weren't there.
You were there in spirit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like every bro was like, we gotta go to the Brentwood ward this week because it's
a hot chick is gonna talk from the pulpit.
Yeah.
Who was
They're
it?
like, we have to give our support. I mean, she's married with like 2 kids now, but
can we say who it is or not?
I'd rather not.
Can we say a first name?
Every single dude who was in my Elders Quorum lesson, they know who they are. They know what they were doing. But
I want to know who it is.
Well, suddenly I've forgotten her name.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I was there for that. I remember
not for that reason.
You remember it was packed though.
No, was it the same? I mean, was that the same Sunday?
Shoot.
For those who don't know, maybe give us a little breakdown. What happened on this fateful Sunday?
Now I'm beginning to think you might be talking about a completely different lesson.
I'm talking
You're
about
talking
the
about
lesson.
You said infamous, and I was like, maybe I've had more than one.
The one where the bishopric member swore at you.
The bishopric said, "Listen,
yes.
you little shit.
Something like that.
Get your act together."
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. No, that was. It was an extra jam-packed Elders Quorum.
Gotcha.
Because of that event.
Oh, gotcha.
Because of the girl.
I mean, I was in that ward, like your ward, for about a year, and I can't say I was a huge fan of 2 out of 3 of those bishopric members.
No.
I just remember I had just gotten off my mission, and I was supposed to be an EFY counselor. I was like a backup. I was like the 12th backup or something like that. And so both of my sisters were going up to Calgary. I think one of them was going to be a counselor. And so they just EFY had told me to be there just in case like people canceled. And so like I went up there and I went to church, and the bishop just basically took over sacrament meeting and was just like, let me tell you about this boating trip I went on down to Hawaii. And he just talked for like an hour about that. And it had absolutely nothing to do with the gospel. Like, I legitimately don't even think he said Jesus Christ once, except for in the name of Jesus Christ, amen, probably. But
he closed the boat story
like,
in the
it was
name
brutal.
of Christ.
It was brutal. I was like, what is this? And then the worst part is we get to Elders Quorum, and I can't even remember who the Elders Quorum president was, but it's irrelevant. He had asked the bishop, he's like, well, before we start, like, Bishop, do you want to address, like, do you want to say anything before we start the lesson? And he went up there and repeated the same story.
No, he did not.
No, I am dead serious, because I was like, am I in, like, is this Groundhog Day?
Is this
like
the Twilight
yeah,
Zone?
I'm like, this is atrocious.
No way.
It was brutal. And from then on, I had no respect for it.
Well, we heard about that sailing story for like a year.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't believe he talked about it for all of Sacrament and then all of Elders Quorum. And then he would have done the same thing the next week.
Yeah.
It's like he went sailing with the former stake president, so he's like, this is now a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
But it's
Same story, same beats every time? Or did he kind of like, here's one aspect of the trip maybe I didn't tell you about before?
Yeah, it's kind of like
my cheek.
It's kind of like, we're going to tell this
80% of the
and
same.
it's like, but last time I forgot to tell you about this meal we made.
Yeah, this
And the boat was like
tuna
especially rocky, and it was hard to cook.
Yeah.
I did learn one thing from that lesson, and that was tuna is a warm-blooded fish.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
don't quote me on that.
I'm just like, what are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure it is, though.
That does sound familiar.
So
It's like
they
one
have
of
to
the-
stay in warm
It's
currents.
one
swim
of the
upstream.
only like warm-blooded fish or something. That's like one of the reasons
They
why
swim
you
upstream
That's salmon,
to lay their eggs. What?
not tuna.
What'd you say?
I don't know. Maybe we should get the old Bishy Bish up in here, and
Call
he
him
can
up.
Get him on the horn. He'll tell us
You got
a
him on
sailing
speed dial,
story.
don't
He's a
you?
scholar too.
Yeah.
To write our sails.
But yeah. Okay. So you were there for that lesson.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you
Yeah.
want to talk about?
So yeah, well, I mean,
I didn't even finish that lesson. I only got halfway through it.
yeah, well, so that lesson was just about like sexuality.
The law of chastity.
Yeah, the law
Sexual
of chastity.
healing,
And
Sexuality, as I like to call it.
soften it up.
nothing of which you were you were not preaching false doctrine. It was, but this is like you had a
Maybe
very
he was though.
No, I wasn't.
You had
I
a-
double checked.
and triple checked. And weren't you shortly thereafter released as a teacher?
No. There would have been an upheaval.
Oh, okay.
Can you imagine?
A mutiny.
I feel like that your ward was always like mutinying because someone was getting like, screwed over by
Extremely mistreated.
Yeah. Someone week to week someone was getting just like lambasted or like horribly mistreated by that bishop, and then like the whole, elders quorum was about to like, I'm never coming back. I feel like I heard that a lot.
Yeah, like we've had former guests of this podcast. They were like going to go on a hunger strike until I was like apologized to. And I was like, don't do that. I was
Eat
like,
your food.
these guys are not.
That was Josh, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good old Josh. He's always there for
It was
you.
like a hunger strike, church strike. I don't know. I think
He's
he
like,
just
I'm
didn't
not going to church until you
get an
get
apology. And I was like, that means a lot, Josh, but you will never come back to church. Well, that's actually, the counselor did eventually apologize to me. The bishop, no.
How awkward. So like what happened? So you're in this lesson, you're teaching. What is the thing that like inspired the rage? So you're teaching a lesson, you're saying some stuff about sexuality that's a little off, the beaten path of what the maybe.
I don't even think it was that. It was just
Here's the problem, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's great material. I'll bring it up again.
do it for the content.
I always make them reach. So the first half of my lesson, and this is the thing, they missed the first part of it, where I do Souls, Symbols, and Sacraments by Elder Holland to explain the law of chastity and why the law of chastity is important. So we get like the doctrinal basis all figured. So we're all on the same page. We have our doctrinal foundation of chastity and sexuality. We've built the foundation. Now we can start getting into the critical thinking about it.
A little wacky.
The application, how it actually applies to us.
Now, does this apply to bestiality?
We did not get into that. But so it's like, and that's when like the
I don't
bishopric.
know why, but the bishop was getting on my case.
And I was like, everyone was like, no, Lyndon, that's wrong. And I was like, yeah, it's wrong because of what I've taught you.
So you
Great work, guys.
So you go through every instance of like, now is this right? And you just like show on the whiteboard.
Asking for a friend. Let's vote.
Yeah.
No.
You're like, here's every porn site you shouldn't go to.
Guess what? It's all of them.
I checked them all.
But I've listed them all just in case. Yeah, and it was hilarious. I had trigger warnings in there for all the like porn addicts or
For all
something.
you porn addicts in the audience, and I know there's a few.
Just talking about it's going to trigger. No. The main crux after we talked about the doctrine was moving into the difference between sexual guilt and sexual shame. And how sexual guilt is, that's fine. And I was like, we're not even going to talk about that because that's not...
Well, what is that? What's sexual guilt?
Sexual guilt is feeling bad about the sexual sins you have done. Where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have got that young lady pregnant.
Right.
I feel bad for having done that.
Okay.
That's sexual guilt. That's fine. And I was like, if you feel guilty about
Feel bad. Go ahead.
like, if you feel guilty about it, I don't want to talk about it. We're not here to talk about your guilt.
Yeah.
That's between you and the Lord. I would say you and the bishop, but I don't believe that. Please don't talk to this bishop
And the lady.
about anything.
Yeah. Maybe talk to the woman who you knocked up.
She might need to, but so I was like, we're not here to talk about guilt. Sexual shame is feeling bad about sex. It's about being like, ew.
Sex is bad.
Sex is bad. Sex is gross.
And it is.
No.
Okay, hold on. Sex is good?
It's good. Some might even say great. Some might even say an integral part of the plan of salvation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that interesting?
So we shouldn't be ashamed of it, though.
So you shouldn't be ashamed of it. And I was kind of about rooting out the shame and replacing the shame, and what more positive behaviors would be instead of being full of sexual shame. And the bishopric was just losing their mind. They're like, no, no, no. They're like, sexual shame is the Holy Ghost guiding you. And the bishop's just like, I lie in bed at night just happy to hold my wife's hand.
I remember when he said that.
And sometimes she wants more, but I just want to hold her hand.
But most times I bat her away. You know why? Because it's bad and it's wrong.
It's disgusting.
And she's a sinner for wanting it.
I'm more than just a piece of meat.
I don't satisfy my wife.
You know what I do? I look her in the eye and she wants it. I look her in the eye and I ask her, "Is this for procreation?" And if she hesitates, I send her to the kitchen to do the dishes.
Again.
She's like, "They're already done."
Yeah, so
do them again.
Yeah, so it was awkward.
Yeah, I remember when he's like, sometimes all I need to do is hold my wife's hand. And I'm like, what?
And he's like, and even if she wants more. And I'm just like, oh, poor sister bishop.
Like, I don't even make an effort.
He's like, I don't even make an attempt to satisfy her urges.
You know what I do? I hold her hand.
Yeah.
I want to hold your hand.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, he's taking a lot of notes during that song.
So we didn't get
onto something.
We didn't get past that. I was also going to talk of, we're going to get into one of the reasons you want to get rid of, because sexual shame works before you're married.
Right.
It keeps these kids out of trouble.
Yeah.
And then I use the example of like cocaine. It's like, should you do cocaine before you're married?
That's a rhetorical question.
And you're asking us?
It's a rhetorical question, but it's not, because I'm going to need you to answer.
So that's a no.
Yeah.
We should
No.
You shouldn't do it before you're married.
Oh, but
unless you're really tired.
And then after you're married,
anything goes.
After you're married, should you still do cocaine?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Hey,
and that's where the confusion.
Adults
doing cocaine.
Can have cocaine as long as you have a buddy. The buddy system, and I
works.
think that's
yeah.
That's the rule. That's in the blue handbook, right?
Yeah. So it's awkward where people are like, sex is a sin. And they're like, except when it's not. And then it's great.
Except when it's awesome.
And so then that gives people sexual shame.
Right.
And that I think is like a huge issue in the church, to be honest. Because like I remember being there and I was like, clearly this guy, this member of the bishopric is like just missing the point entirely. And like, yes, I guess in his defense he missed the entire first half of the lesson. But even still, like, I don't know, even with context, like, or without context, I still feel like nothing in what you were teaching at that time was wrong. And but I think this is like a huge issue in the church, is the fact that like people are so ashamed to talk about, sex and sexuality, and I think it has hurt a lot of people, because I mean I've heard of plenty of stories of like people who feel guilty after their wedding night, like they feel like they broke the law of chastity and it messes them up, and like sometimes they need therapy and things like that. I mean,
do you know actual people where that's the case? Because I've heard that example in sort of an abstract, do you know people where this is the case, or is that like one of these urban legends?
No.
Here's the thing. It's so shameful in the Mormon Church, aka the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that in my lesson, all my examples were from like Christian couples.
Right.
So there's like Christians that talk about like, oh, I could not have a healthy sex life with my spouse because it had been so ingrained into me how wrong it is that there's no way that we could like enjoy it together.
Yeah.
But it's like, could I find any like Mormon blogs about that? The Mormons won't even talk about it.
Probably that Mormon sex therapist that was
got
excommunicated.
excommunicated. Yeah.
Do you think? What was I gonna say? Don't you think though that like Mormons are just sort of like seething under the surface, and then like the moment they're married, they're just like
They're
blow the lid off. And
lady on the street, but
Yeah.
a freak in the sheets.
yeah,
or
they
whatever.
do it all. They don't care. They've just been so like,
I think-
shaking up the bottle all these years, and finally they get to let it all out.
Yeah,
Maybe
some of them.
that could be true, but I think it's also true that like it's very difficult for some people to go 0 to 100.
I think you're right.
I mean, you think about it, and like as a male growing up in the church, it was always like prepare for your mission, prepare for your mission, prepare for your mission, like nonstop. That's all it was.
Yeah.
For a woman, it's pretty much like prepare for temple marriage,
Yeah.
like be worthy of temple
Get
marriage,
married,
like
yeah.
be, clean and pure. And that's the thing. I think we have like this weird purity culture, and I think there is a double standard when it comes to like males who have had sex before marriage. Like, yeah, that's unfortunate, like, yeah, such a shame.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, exactly. But then when a woman does the same thing, it's just like, oh dang, like,
Now,
Yeah, they're like the licked cupcake.
which
Is a thing. Yeah, we're getting away from it.
I would agree with that. I think we are doing a better job of getting away with that, or getting away from that.
I was like, we got to
I should
correct
say.
that statement.
But obviously, there. I mean, and that's not even just a church problem, because like the whole like slut shaming thing is real, just in society in general. But yeah, I just think it's easy to think that it's like, oh yeah, we're pure and wholesome and whatnot, and we get married and everything's hunky dory after that. But it's not that simple for a lot of people, because they've just been so ingrained, and I'm kind of like brainwashed in a sense that it's like sex is evil, sex is bad. These thoughts, these feelings, these emotions, these desires that you've had that you've been suppressing for who knows how long, those are all
Your
like
whole life.
inherently evil. And then you get married, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, okay, yep, flip of a switch, just have at her. And that can really mess with people.
Do you think, I want to go back to this idea of double standards for a second, because I think what you're talking about with like this licked cupcake complex of, does this come from like, this is coming from like the men of the bachelors of the church who are looking for a spouse, don't you think?
No, like all my like women that have heard this are like, this is what we were taught in Young Women's, from like the Young Women's
Interesting.
leaders and teachers.
Because on the flip side of it, I've known some people who've like straight up, some women who have like had sex, gone to their bishop, told them, and the bishop's like, you know what I think is really going to help you with this? Going to the temple. And he'll just like, that's their like punishment or whatever, is like, go to the temple and enjoy the temple. And that's and go. It's like 3 Hail Marys. It's like do 3 baptisms, and you're healed, and you're So it's like Whereas
if you're talking the double standard, you mean if a returned missionary goes to his bishop
and says he's had sex, it's
he's
like
disfellowshipped.
Yeah. That's the flip side, is where like I knew a guy who's like before his mission. I think he can't remember what he did, but it was. In
Please,
the realm of
all the details.
Yes,
it was in the realm of
divulge.
like a masturbation pornography sort of a thing. And I think he was held back from his mission for a full year. And he had already given his farewell. And like between the farewell talk and the leaving, he had a little whoopsie daisy. And boom, Bob's your uncle. You can't go on a mission now for another year. How embarrassing is that? I don't think he ever went. I think he went inactive. I think, so.
I think
Just
that's
like driven
ridiculous.
out of the church, basically.
Maybe he did. He did go on a mission.
But there,
Who's to say?
Double standard, though, right? Like I feel like they're harder on men in the bishop's offices, in the stake president's offices. Of course, women never speak to the stake president really about these things, because it's not the Melchizedek priesthood. They exclusively deal with the bishops. And then the bishops have all this latitude, right? And then
Well, I think part of that might be just because, like, even now, the majority of missionaries are males. And so you receive your endowments. I would imagine so.
I don't think
it's like 50-50 these days.
Yeah, now it's 50-50.
Okay, all right. But for the longest time then,
pull that out of my butt. I don't know if that's
I mean,
true
I have
or
no
not.
idea. I would imagine.
I checked the numbers recently, and it was pretty close.
Where do you check those numbers? Like, I don't even know
Should
where.
we see if we can?
I'm curious about
check
that.
it out?
But I mean,
I did it for an
historically though, I mean,
yeah,
obviously
elders,
it would be
missionaries.
Yeah, it would be predominantly males, and so it's men that are going to the temple, choosing to live a higher law, I guess you could say, and so held to a higher standard. So I think in that sense, like, yeah, it makes sense that they would be like, with great power comes great responsibility kind of thing. So if you fall short in that sense, then it makes sense that there would be a little bit more serious of repercussions.
The camera.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, repeat back everything you just said.
Okay, hold on. We're going to pause for a quick second. Hold on.
For Tampax?
This is brought to you by...
Depends.
It's brought to you by Fossil Watches. We've already plugged them.
And Nestle. Pure Life.
Didn't they like go to jail for like using slaves to get water?
And we're back. I forget what we were talking about.
Oh, I remember. Jace was justifying the
My sins.
No, in a sense,
Kinda.
he was justifying the double standard for
For men and
harsher
women, that's right, yeah.
penalization of sexual sins.
For men than for women.
Kind
But of course, you know, women get it's this whole idea of like Russian roulette with your bishop. You kind of don't know who you're going to get and what they're going to
No, I mean,
what they're going to do to you.
I that sounds so bad.
You never
It's
know.
true.
You never know.
You don't know what they're gonna say.
No,
Some
it's
bishops
true.
are just like, "Hey,
I mean,
so glad you came to me."
I know like a friend of mine who had
Did a thing.
Yes,
Had a thing happen.
Yes,
An
and
incident.
A whoopsie daisy.
Oh yes, a little oopsie doopsie dipsy doodle of the noodle.
Whoa! This is a family show.
Dipping his noodle in the
No, but it was
sauce.
it was oral sex, and he received 6 months of
Jail
like,
time.
I was gonna say like
Three hots
it
and a
was
cot.
no, I'm kidding.
6 months out on parole.
Yeah, so it was 6 months where he couldn't partake of the sacrament, and
embarrassing.
the woman, it was 3 months. It was different. It was different bishops, in all fairness, but like, I think that is part of the issue is the fact that like I understand that like, the bishops are asked to do this, like it's volunteer, and I think the vast majority of them, don't necessarily want to be a bishop, but they want to do their best. They want to do.
You don't
what
think
the
they
Lord
don't
wants.
want to be a bishop? I think it's like the greatest honor, these guys can get, and they
I think
soak it up. They
if
love
any
it.
man truly was like, I really hope I get called as bishop, that is the exact person that should never be
And
called
those
as
are the
bishop.
guys that get called.
Yeah, okay, sometimes for sure.
It's like on the mission. The guy that wants to be zone leader, the guy that wants to be AP, he's gonna get it.
It's true.
Should he get it?
No,
Not necessarily.
Nah, I think it's. Listen, it's a different story on the mission. Okay,
The mission is not real life.
it really isn't.
But you could say like, listen, if you're gonna make like a punitive legal system for sexual sins, you gotta standardize it.
You got to standardize it.
Or-
to an extent.
Hear me out on this. Maybe you don't need to police sexuality in the church.
Okay. But here's a question.
Now I'm gonna get my bishop's gonna call me now.
Yeah, and
He's
your
gonna
mom
be
and your
like-
dad.
They're gonna be like, you don't think we need to be trying to ruin people's lives for their sexual sins? I'm gonna be like, I was just suggesting it. I wasn't saying that's how it should
How
be.
I'm just playing devil's
They're
advocate.
like, we need to drive.
Devil's advocate. Lucifer's
You want to be
lawyer. Over here.
Lucifer's liaison.
legal aid.
Lucifer's legal aid over here.
Yeah.
Just saying, maybe we shouldn't
we all get
publicly humiliate people if they got a handy under the bleachers.
No, I agree. I think there should be some
Church
sort of
softball game.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think there should be a degree of standardization for sure. I think the only thing that you could say about that is obviously some people will be like more repentant than others. And, like I don't think repentance is a cookie cutter thing, like one size fits all. And
why can't it be?
I think some people can be like coerced, and I think this kind of goes into another thing that I can talk about, but yeah, I think that there's a lot of ignorance, especially in the church, when it comes to like the law of chastity. Because, I mean, did you guys ever listen or watch? Oh my goodness, The District.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, do you remember the law of chastity lesson with Herman, where they were like, so they were teaching, they're talking about Corianton, and he's like, yeah, so Corianton, he goes and he breaks the law of chastity. Yeah, like he breaks it.
He breaks it. Yeah,
that's all
so
they
funny.
say.
Yeah.
That's all they talk about. And so this Herman is just like, oh, okay, like trying to figure out what the hell they're talking about. And then so it goes fast forward to a couple days later or a week or whatever, and they're talking with him, and he's like, yeah, like I really wanted to talk with this girl, but I was like, no, I got to keep the law of chastity. And they're like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, like I want to keep the law of chastity, so I'm not gonna talk with them. And they're like, okay, we failed miserably at explaining what the law of chastity is. And I think that is incredibly true. I think we focus so much on like the what, but we so poorly explain the what, and we also just skip entirely, I feel like, the why.
I mean, I was really good at chastity. I was Dr. Chastity. That's what they used to call me. That they used to bring me in. The fixer, they would call me.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chastity Fixer.
On the mission?
On the mission. And now. Someone botched a chastity lesson. We got to get the fixer in here to fix it up. And then I would come in and say, no sex. No masturbation. And I'd like heavy eye contact the whole time. You really gotta
5 minutes uninterrupted. No sex. 30 seconds of silence.
I'm like sweating.
Eye
I'm sweating. I'm just like I'm holding my breath the whole time.
Not even thinking about it.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? When you go to the bathroom now, you're not even allowed to look down there.
You're not even allowed to touch.
3 shakes.
Not even. No shaking, no touching at all.
You can dab the end of it once.
With a tissue paper.
With a church-sanctioned tissue.
1 ply. It must be from the church.
Church-produced toilet paper. 1 dab, and that'll do ya. And if you even think about a second dab, you better rush to your
6
bishop.
months for you.
6 months in the pokey. You got me, pal? So,
hey, that's actually where my lesson went off the rails. Is when I brought up the idea of sexuality being on a spectrum, where I was like, yeah, on one end of the spectrum, there's like the wild, hedonistic, whatever, but on like another end of the spectrum,
and you should have clipped from like Caligula.
And I was like, in case you're wondering,
this is what it is.
This is what we're trying to avoid.
Okay. And
get a good look.
They're like, get it down. You're like, okay. And now this is the good.
No, that didn't happen.
And then you just show a.
But yeah, when I was like, sexuality can be like going on a date with a girl or holding a girl's hand. And they're like, oh.
That's sexuality.
Yeah. And I was like, and that's like what you have to embrace on a steady scale up to marriage. And I was like, and when you are ashamed of it entirely, men start to avoid, and this was actually Mark Manson. He was kind of like, and then if men who avoid sexuality end up getting driven into like pornography addictions, video game addictions. And so that's why I was like, that's one part of my selling. It's like, you can't just go all the way to one end of it.
You can't avoid women and sexuality entirely because you're going to be an incel, you're going to be a basement dweller, you're going to have a neck beard, that sort of thing.
You're going to be in the situation Japan is in right now.
That's right, where their population is dwindling because I don't know.
Dwindling in unbelief
and in reproduction.
I
was going to say, I'm sorry to cut you off. I forget what I was going to say now.
He just wanted to cut you off.
I wanted to cut you off. I like to do it. The thing I was going to say, though, is something about
sex.
Yeah. It's gone. Okay, I'm sorry.
I guess you go with your point, please.
Well, so, like, for instance, I had sex ed when I was in grade 7.
Yeah.
And like my parents, they never really talked to me about that. I know that if I had questions, I could easily ask them. Like, they weren't afraid to talk about it, really. But that's just not something that like we ever talked about. I learned it in school, and I'm not saying that school is like the best place to learn it, but I think that we don't talk about it enough at home. Like, it's not the church's responsibility to teach about sexuality. The church shouldn't be in that business at all. It should be in the home. It should be a failure.
It's big business for them, though.
But it's a failure in the home, is what I'm trying to say. Is like, because I know of people who did not receive sex ed in school. Like, their parents took them out of it because they're like, nope, you're too young, and like, okay, that's their, like, I think you can kind of see where they're coming from, especially sex ed now in school has changed, like, drastically. But then their parents don't talk to them about it either, and I think that can create a lot of issues, a lot of confusion, and just a ton of ignorance. For instance, I know of someone who they were about to get married. This was down in Utah. My sister was living there. She had a roommate who was about to get married, like, I think in a couple weeks, like a relatively short amount of time. And she came into the living room and was like, "Hey guys, quick question. What's a condom?" Mm-hmm. I don't know how old this
Good
woman,
question.
You know, probably.
Good question.
Legitimate question.
And what is a
like
condom?
18 or 19 years old, and you don't know what that is. That, like, how? How can you go your entire life? I think if you don't learn it in school and you don't learn it in the home, you got, like, how else are you going to learn it? You're either just not going to learn it, which I have a hard time believing at all, or you're going to learn it from, like, your friends or the internet, which I think is partially why there's such, like, a issue with pornography, not just in the church, but just, like, in the world in general.
And you gotta teach condoms in the home. I've always said that.
Especially female.
I've always taught that at my lecture circuits.
I mean, she knew what the word was, so she was on the right track, I guess.
Do you think is that just an urban legend, though?
It's
no,
one of these
because
urban legends.
That what, like, my sister told me that story.
She didn't. Oh, okay, so this is real. She was in the room.
I mean, yeah, and like I've got other stories that my mom had told me, and I mean, I can't verify them necessarily.
Are you calling your mom a liar?
Well, she's dead, so I mean,
you shouldn't.
And I'm so sorry.
Did you have something to do with her death?
I just snickered is all. You said
me too. Don't worry. No, but she had told me stories that, like, she had allegedly heard, of, like, married couples on their wedding night, the bride or the wife, like, locks herself in the bathroom because she finds out that her husband wants to do this to her. And
what's this?
Sex.
Just run of the mill,
and would have to call their mom and be like, crying, like, this is what he wants. Like, yeah, he wants to do this. And the mom was like, yes, honey, like, that's okay. Yeah. Like, that's what sex is. That's what marriage, like, that's included in marriage. Like, you have to be prepared. And so obviously, like, this poor girl clearly just has no idea what is going on. Like, was never properly taught anything.
What a rude awakening that must have been.
Yeah. Well, and again, yeah.
And I guess the contrast is like Kids of the World.
Yeah.
Where it's like you watch Dawson's Creek and all they can talk about. Of course, they're like 30-year-olds playing teenagers. A show written by adults.
Yeah.
But it's like, they're just like, we need to talk about losing our virginity because having sex is a part of growing up. And we're just going to openly discuss it and plan for it. No! And it's just,
Yeah, that's
like the contrast where Mormon kids are like, no, we will not grow up and we will not discuss this and we will not do these things.
So this was the thought that I had
unless
before.
They sneak a little growing up in.
This was my thought, which was, okay, we have this, it's in the doctrine, it's in, the code, it's in our...
The Pirates Code.
The Pirates Code. Don't have sex.
It's more of a guideline.
More of a guideline, really. The Pirates Code is of abstinence, of course, as they're well known for. Abstinence on the high seas. You appreciate the breeze on your face all the more.
Well, they kind of have to when, it was like bad luck to have a woman on board, so.
It's bad luck to have a woman on. That's right.
Can't deliver babies while you're pirating.
That's right. No, but like this idea of policing sex, and we kind of talked about like we shouldn't even be policing. Like I get it's a decent like intention, I think, where the bishops for all these years have been like asking about masturbation, about pornography, about like sex, and like sort of that policing of sexuality has occurred. And why has it occurred? Well, it's because, the church feels so strongly about sexual purity and all of that. Now, what's the leeway? Should we even be in the business, I think you talked about, should we be in the business of policing sexuality at all? Is there some value to encouraging people young people, and I guess old people too, old adults, to not have sex, outside of marriage? I know it's a tough topic because I think it is entrenched inside of like the gospel of Jesus Christ, like the law of chastity is so, it's from God. It's in, it's the finger of God wrote it on stone tablets.
The only worst thing you could do is murder someone.
The only worst thing you could do is murder someone.
And it's only barely worse.
Get a hand job, murder someone. Those are right beside each other. And
holding hands.
Jacking each other up.
I think that is part of the issue, though, is because that scripture comes from Alma 39, correct? Where Corianton, so Alma and his sons, they go on a bunch of missions, so they're abroad. Corianton is like responsible for a bunch of people. Like he's
like a zone leader.
Yeah, leader, bishop, because he's like a caretaker of a bunch of like
a pastor
of recent converts, essentially. So. Yeah, I don't know. Zone leader, bishop, whatever you want to say. He was in a position of leadership. Yeah, just
hold it on your chin.
And
that sounds great.
He gets tempted, I guess, by Jezebel, and shirks his responsibilities and duties. And I think when we read that scripture, it talks about, how it's like almost as bad as murder. I don't think they're talking about breaking the law of chastity in that sense. I feel like it's more, and I mean,
but that's how we interpret it, though.
Yes, and that is the problem, though. I think that so many people interpret that as, breaking the law of chastity is almost as bad as murder.
Killing a family of 4.
Yeah,
what you're saying is more like he was probably the bishop,
yes,
and he probably slept with someone's wife when he was the bishop, which
it said she was
very inappropriate.
It said she was a harlot, so I don't know. Like maybe that was her profession. No, I don't know. But that's the thing. Like he was in a position of leadership. People looked up to him.
The economy.
People, like, he was an example to others. He was supposed to be a leader in the church, and he not only left his responsibilities, but probably as a result, other people fell away because of it.
Right.
And I think that, in a sense, he committed like a spiritual murder, not just of himself, but like of others, because he led them astray. And I know that he repented and he went back, but that's the thing. So like, it's the fact that he repented and went back, And so it's like we overemphasize, I think, the law of chastity. We overemphasize its seriousness, and I'm not trying to say it is not a serious sin. I believe that it is definitely a more serious sin than like, I had to buy gas on Sunday. Things like that. But I think we definitely oversimplify that and try and equate it with, it's almost as bad as murder or denying the Holy Ghost.
So you're saying we can't just take the law of chastity, teach them correct principles, let them govern themselves. You're saying the church is like, no, we have to get our hands dirty.
We got to get involved.
We have to be directly involved. This is what I'm hearing. Correct me if what I'm hearing is wrong.
All I'm doing is correcting, just interpreting that scripture. I'm trying to say that there's like another way of interpreting that scripture, and I think that your average church member is interpreting that wrong.
Here's the thing, though, and I like the question that is brought to my mind, maybe by the Spirit. I don't know.
Hard to say.
Hard to say at this point. But the question I have is the way that we deal with sex? I mean, you were talking about like, there's gas purchasing on Sunday, and there's sex with prostitutes, and one is worse than the other one. And or let's remove prostitutes from it. Let's just say sexuality, any sort of
outside of marriage,
because everything, it's all bad, right? In the eyes of the Lord, Now, here's the question: is sex and the way that we deal with sex, is that a cultural artifact? Is that a negotiable thing, or is that descended from the heavens, and we just have to sort of adhere to it? Is the way that we look at sex and sexuality, can it change? Can it be, like you said, interpreted in a more maybe lenient way or a different way?
Yeah, I mean, I will admit I haven't really thought of this, but my immediate reaction is, yeah, I think it could change. I mean, just the fact that they don't talk about, like, they don't ask about masturbation in like interviews anymore. I think that kind of shows that, I don't know. So even that, in a sense, like,
so the church is now pro masturbation, is what I'm understanding.
They're asking, but they want to know that you are doing it.
I am. I do just find it a little bit.
Look, those are rookie numbers. We got to bump those numbers up.
And I know that quote. And ironically, that is exactly what this is referring to. I don't know. I do think it is a little bit interesting that like the church has taken the word masturbation out of the For Strength of Youth pamphlet. It doesn't circulate the, like, what is it, like the little engine,
the little factory,
whatever it is, yeah,
Boyd Gate Packer,
which is like 30 years old or whatever, and they finally, or maybe I don't know, it's really old,
from the 70s.
Finally took that out of circulation and things like that. I like, as far as I know, the only reference, and I can't even tell, because I haven't looked at the missionary handbook, but someone told me that it's in the missionary like white handbook now. I don't know. I don't remember that when I was on my mission, but I don't know. I just think it's a little bit interesting, and I will freely admit, like, I don't think it's like on the same level as like oral sex or just sex in general. I mean, good luck trying to find a deacon or a teacher or a priest.
This was the big sexually thing. Pure.
Yeah, I mean, like, that has never done that before. Good luck. I'm sorry.
There's a few of them.
That was the big revelation when I got into mission leadership. Is they're like, Elder Naglis, now that you're a district leader, it's time you know. everyone in the mission
is jacking off
at
all times.
And they're just like, we don't even know what to do or what to think about it. Because it's like you have like one zone leader. One zone leader's like, I found some quotes from some general authorities that make it sound like it's not a big deal. And then there's other missionaries who are like, everyone's doing it. How can we baptize anyone? How can anyone have the Spirit? It's impossible. What's happening?
They just show you they show you a map of the mission. And there's lights
like
all over it
a
flashing.
Red zone.
Yeah, there's like
this
lights
is the
flashing.
No-go zone.
Every one of these flashing lights is a masturbating missionary. That's just like
we've given everyone step counters on their wrists.
But yeah, so they're just like, and so it's like, and they're like, now that you're in mission leadership, what's your 2 cents? Where do you land on this controversial issue?
What's your 2 cents, pal?
They're just like, I don't know. They're
What
like,
did you say?
I don't remember. I just remember
He
being
said
like,
he was
You
pro.
said let them do it. You said relegate them all to one zone,
well,
the
and then,
masturbator zone.
well, then no, you can't do that because then you'll get elders that are mutual masturbators.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that a real thing?
So
Who
some
were we
people are like,
talking
that's an
to?
urban legend.
Yeah, I was.
Except that in my mission, there were names involved. Where it's like 2 elders, they had to get split up because they liked doing it together in the same room.
Same
Oh my
room, same
gosh.
time.
It was like a big joke to them. And
Yeah,
and we're like,
funny joke.
and so that's
That's hilarious.
Probably those Book of Mormon.
Like, this is so
videos.
funny. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And so they're like, that's not okay.
Papanwa.
So they're like, we can't stop missionaries from masturbating, but we definitely don't want them doing it together.
If they're gonna do it by yourself,
Shamefully.
the way God intended it.
Or didn't. We don't know.
We're not sure.
Yeah,
It's
no, like my
unclear.
trainer was just like, masturbation is not against the law of chastity. It doesn't fit the definition. And he's like, and such apostle would agree. And I'm just like, 19-year-old Lyndon, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to figure out how to put a part in my hair.
There's some like weird apostle, like, seldom heard of, but it's like elder Slimers or something.
He was in there for 1 month before he died.
He's like, he's got a lot of weird opinions about masturbation. Yeah, he's just like, it's fine.
See, there like before my mission president was my mission president was like, emergency transferred to become a mission president, and the mission president before, he was sending missionaries home for like masturbation and all sorts of other things, and he just like straight up would absolutely refuse to believe anyone who said that they didn't masturbate. That was like his weird thing. He was obsessed with that, and so everyone's like, even if I'm like sincerely not doing it, this dude does not believe me, and it just makes me wonder, like, feel like this dude probably has a problem and he's just projecting it on others. But
yeah, meanwhile he's like, yeah.
Anyways.
But I don't know. I mean, so that's the thing, is
episode.
like, I don't know if it is very like black and white. Maybe it is for some. I don't know. I don't think that like masturbation is necessarily black and white. Because I don't know of any like official doctrine behind that. Like
Can I ask you guys a question, and we can maybe cut this out, and I'll do this to sort of. Maybe we'll cut this out. Did you guys masturbate on your mission ever?
I did.
How many times? How often?
Not very much, in all honesty.
Did you feel like a piece of poo after?
Yeah. And I think that was like an issue, was just like the sexual shame of just like, I have these urges, these thoughts, these desires, and I just like inherently felt guilty for that. Yeah. And I remember talking. I've talked with some people just about this in general. And I've talked with like bishops about this during like elders quorum lessons and things like that, because everyone loves to beat to death the law of chastity lessons in elders quorum. And like, honestly, I don't know. The last bishop I remember, he, take it with a grain of salt, of course, this is his opinion, but he was like, if it's not an everyday or an every week thing, is it really an issue? And I was like, okay, all right. Like that's I had never actually.
He's like, is it ruining your life?
Yeah. See, and that's the thing is like I think there is such a guilt with it where it's like, you know, if someone does it, they just like automatically think that they're a failure because of this like purity culture that we kind of live in.
Yeah.
And so I think it can mess a lot of people up as a result.
Well, you want some stats? I'll give you some stats.
You never answered
before Troy gets to the point where he's like, I never masturbated on my mission, I was AP.
I didn't. Not one.
Someone did it for me.
I was AP. You think I did that myself?
That's what like, district leaders are for.
I was like Xerxes on a throne of missionaries waiting to get the privilege.
Did you ever train?
The sun god.
That's what greenies are for.
That's what a greenie's for. No, I never did. You're sick and twisted, Jace. I love it.
Only on days that end in Y.
That's every day.
Every day, Jace.
You got to remember, I was pre-juiced on the mission.
That's right. That's right.
So what are these stats you're talking about?
Oh, before my mission.
Do we want to leave all that in?
I don't really care.
Leave it in.
I'll clap it back in.
And we're back. Okay.
My bishop, before my mission, where he's just like, and this is what I loved, the loaded question. He's like, so how often are you masturbating? And I was like, 18-year-old Lyndon, 0 testosterone. No urges. I don't feel a thing down there. And I'm just like, I don't.
Paralyzed.
I'm like, I don't. He's like, okay, well, then when was the last time? And I'm just like, oh, jeez, I got to go into my... It was just loaded questions. How often? When was the last time? Not do you even know what it is? It's just like...
Have you ever?
He's just so jaded. He's just like, when's the last time you masturbated? Today on the Sabbath.
What time today did you ejaculate, Lyndon?
Yeah, a lot of loaded questions. Caught me off guard, little 18-year-old
like,
Lyndon.
Was it 5 p.m.? Was it 4?
But he's like, let me give me some numbers. He's like, congratulations for having mastered your urges. Of course, by mastering my urges is I don't have any. Camera's upset. But this is what he said. He said 90% of the men in this ward are masturbating. He's like, and when I ask them to stop, 90% are still masturbating. And then he said 60% of the women are masturbating, but when you tell them to stop, that number drops to 30. And I was, I'm 18. I'm like, where are you getting these numbers from?
But
Why are you telling me this?
Grandma.
Then I like leave the bishop's office, and I'm just like
shaking
in the linger longer, looking at 10 women and being like, which one of you?
Which 3 of you?
1 in 3.
It used to be 6 out of 10, but thanks to the bishop, it's down to 3 out of 10.
I honestly don't remember the bishop ever or stake president ever asking me those questions. In all honesty, even before my mission, I don't remember them ever asking those.
What
things.
a privileged upbringing. But the point being, there seems to be a disparity here in the purity culture, at least when it comes to masturbating, where they're getting to the point where they're like, the men do it, and we tell them to stop, and they don't. Women don't really do it, and when we tell them to stop, that they do.
Or if they do,
there's just like different urges. Yeah. So you have to have like the same rules to both sexes, or both genders.
And I'm not advocating for it by any means. Like if you don't need to do it, by all means.
Like that's why I came on this podcast, because I really wanted to get the word out.
Please, everyone. You'll make me feel better somehow. No.
I feed off of you doing it.
No. I mean, but that's the thing is like, I think sexuality is a spectrum, I guess, in the sense that like everyone is a little bit different. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, don't don't do it if you don't have to, but I guess, yeah.
If you do have to.
Jace is saying if you have to do it.
Do it, dude.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, like, I just
what does have to do?
I don't know. See, I mean, and I haven't like fleshed this out really. In all honesty,
fleshed it out.
Maybe that was poor phrasing.
The hell is this? Is going
I'm not
off the
advocating
rails.
for it. I am not advocating for it.
Okay.
I just am poorly choosing my words.
You're not sex positive.
What does that mean exactly?
You tell me, sex boy.
I guess I will say I don't think it is on the same level as like oral sex or actual sex or yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Actually, I mean, even in the church handbook, it says like that is not something that will prevent you. Like that does not require like a church disciplinary action.
Is there like a rubric in the church handbook where they like, they're like, okay, so it's like time, duration, and then there's like a severity of
like
activities.
There should be.
And then there's like, okay, 3 minutes, hand job, 4 weeks off the sacrament.
Just a little matrix that they follow along.
Sex 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Oh my gosh. Excommunication.
Apostasy.
Yeah.
I guess they just have to follow the spirit.
Put it in a rubric.
Make it easy. One size fits all.
That's the name of the episode. Put it in a rubric.
No, there's very few people I feel like that I have been like that are willing to even talk about this. Just sexuality in general.
Me and Lyndon.
There you go. Thanks, guys. Let's just hold hands right now. That's all. That's all I need sometimes.
Just a little connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that is like that is a problem. I think we don't talk about it enough. Like, and by all means, there's a time and a place. Like, this isn't something that I'm just gonna be like, so how's your sex life doing? You know,
Thanksgiving, you're just like, so how's everyone?
Obviously,
Is everyone in touch with their sexuality?
Is everyone sexually positive? I don't know why you're like an old prospector in this scenario.
There's gold in them hills. No, so
Okay.
yeah, I think there's a time and a place, but I don't know.
Where are you on the spectrum?
Okay.
Have you heard of Mark Manson? All right.
Did we solve anything?
I think we did, yeah. We solved sexual
Did we at least,
shame.
bring up some points? Maybe
Yeah.
our listeners will bring in questions. Do we have emails?
The email.
I don't think
We're
so.
gonna check the email.
Let's have Jace answer some emails.
Okay, JC. Here's a
Is
couple
there any
fastballs
emails from Theo?
for you. Okay, we got some.
Former co-host of the podcast.
Okay.
I don't think he listens
Here
anymore.
we go. We got one.
I'll chastise
we got
him. I
one
play
from
Warzone with him on Wednesday and Saturday.
Our old pal Alex Williams says, hello. The lines Cindy was talking about are the Nazca lines.
Ah, yes. I actually knew that when I was listening to. I was like, it's the Nazca lines.
Don't know what you're talking about.
It's the things from the air. The like huge kind of not sculptures, but like grave like lines.
Conspiracy
lines.
stuff.
I'm pretty sure I saw those.
It's lines in the ground.
Yeah.
I thought it was like
yeah,
one of
yeah,
her
yeah,
Old
yeah,
Testament
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
There's like a bird and a monkey and all sorts of like crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can only see them from the sky.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. So she
Clearing
was
that up.
in regards to mental health. Alex Williams says, I always love talking about mental health with Cindy. She's so empathetic and insightful. 10 out of 10. Great guest. And then he says, vaccines. I'm prone to clotting. Did you know that?
He's a clotter.
He's a clotter.
Blood
He's a 10 out of 10 clotter. So I was nervous, but I did some information therapy.
I think that's what he calls research.
Talked to my doctor and learned about all the different risks. I get it. If you're nervous about anything, study it. Learn as much as you can about it. At least that's what's helped me with airplanes and vaccines. And he's been an airplane denier for quite some time. And
Yeah.
we're
He says,
happy.
if it's not a bird, it can't fly.
It can't fly. It doesn't have wings.
He thinks the airport's a hoax.
Yeah, and he's thought that
it's just
for
a
while.
government facility, a big cover-up. The people that go to the airport, they don't come back.
Yeah, they never come back.
What about all those chemtrails, though?
And the birds deliver those.
And birds are government
birds
drones.
are fake.
Government
Yeah. Birds are drones.
And that's straight from Alex Williams. So
And
if you want
did
any,
say that,
if you want any clarification on that, go to him.
Yeah, and he's yeah.
But he does believe in vaccines now.
I think so. He's come around. And then he goes on to say, such kind words from Cindy. I really appreciate that. I forget what she said, but some mumbo jumbo.
She liked. She said that Alex was always like an enjoyable fellow to be around, and she enjoyed his inquisitive mind. I believe something along those lines.
Gosh,
you
do listen to our podcast.
I love this guy.
I do want to say that, like, I don't know Cindy, but I did appreciate her talk on mental illness and stuff, because I think that is something that needs to increasingly get destigmatized, not just within the church, but just in society in general.
How did we handle it? Do you think? How did we do?
I don't know. I thought it was like, because people, like, I don't have a mental illness as far as I know, but I don't think people necessarily just want pity, and so I think there's like a fine line between, you know, like, laughing with the person and laughing at them kind of thing, and I don't think you guys said or did anything that was particularly offensive, so
good.
That's improvement.
It's always thank you. It's always a bit of when people drop little bombs on you, like suicide plans. It's like, ooh,
yeah, that was interesting.
It's an interesting thing, and I'm glad that she brought it up, but it's also like as we're dealing with people are watching this, and
you realize you're like, there's an appropriate and an inappropriate response.
Yeah.
And we're not very good.
We lean inappropriate, as this episode may or may not tell you.
We try to fall on the right side of the fence. And most of the fences that we're falling on one side or the other, they're just short little tiny picket fences.
Yeah.
Suicide plans is a big fence.
Big fence. So I think
we're just like, oh gosh, where are we going to go?
I think you just threw yourself back. You didn't know which side it was. But
no, I just hope it's the right side.
I think you're right. I think I did go back to watch it before we put it out, just to make sure, that it wasn't, that you or I didn't say anything too crazy. We might have to do that with this episode, but also I'm tempted to just throw it all out there. So anyway, he goes on to say, Alex Williams, that is. He says, also, yeah, definitely in the grips of Satan. I even bought groceries on Sunday. Yikes. So what do we do about Alex?
There's no hope for him.
Do we flush him down the toilet, so to speak?
I think you guys need
to
erase.
Cancel him.
Yeah, you need to erase all emails he's ever sent. Also, delete all episodes he's been on. Any mention of him, you just have to bleep it out.
What if we bleep
that? Is one option.
Yeah. We write.
I don't think we should do that.
We write him off. We start again on a new friend.
Yeah, you could just rename him.
We recast him.
Yeah, or just bleep out his name, just like as literal bleep. Oh, we have an email from Bleepy McBleeperson.
No, I don't like that.
No? Okay.
I think we just we deep fake all his episodes with someone completely different.
Yeah. We call them Andrew.
Alec Williams.
Alec McWilliams.
Alec Billiams.
Yeah. And we'll I don't know, maybe Tom Cruise. We'll just deep fake Tom Cruise's face on
there. So he's in the grips of Satan. Satan has him. He will forever be a son of perdition. He goes on to say, true and faithful forever in chains. Alex.
Yeah, I think we said Satan has his chains around him.
Yeah, and he does.
His flaxen cord.
Yeah. P.S. He says, Cindy should definitely do a whole episode on women in the scriptures. What do you think about that?
Not on here.
Not on this podcast. Well, that's like one of her lessons.
Not on this podcast. Not here.
I think that was like,
damn.
she's like, I've been doing a lot of research on women in the scriptures. I was like, must have taken you the whole morning. There's no women in the scriptures. She's like, no, there's a lot. And I'm like, oh, shoot.
Yeah. So that's
send her. We had a, yep. I'll send her something afterwards. I don't even know who she is, but there's a YouTube link to like a fireside that we had in Edmonton that she might find interesting.
Okay.
That's good.
We got one more from Jeremy Olson. He says, hey, my guys, I'm still coming on the 10th of July.
Oh, yeah. He penciled that in, didn't he?
He did. Tell your listeners they will learn something new. Okay. He's setting the bar pretty high.
Like, what's something new? From
He
Jeremy?
doesn't specify.
Is that his whole email? Just reminding us that he's like, I'm coming.
It is ominously sparse. He then said he wraps it up and he says, "Hope you guys are well, especially Lyndon."
Thank you, Jeremy.
What about this guy? What about?
I mean, he hopes you're well, but not especially well.
No, it's not especially well. It's especially Lyndon. He hopes you're especially well. Does he not like me? Do we have beef? Do Jeremy and I have beef?
I think
Jeremy
that's
has
what
a
you'll be
history of
learning when
beefing.
he comes out.
Is he beefing on me? Is he beefing up on Troy? We'll find out on July 10th. Gather round.
And then a week later when we put it out.
No.
Yeah, right. It'll be out July
Day of.
11th.
Day of, dude.
Day of. Do you think we spend all day editing this?
You gotta be crazy. You gotta be out of your mind.
That does not happen.
Oh my gosh, we've covered so much about sex and sexuality.
We haven't even talked about Star Wars. I know Jace has a lot to say about Star Wars.
The Bad Batch is wrapping up. Oh, are we going another ep about another hour about? Should we get a pizza up in here?
I saw Jace's phone. He has Baby Grogs on his phone.
You got any hot takes on Star Wars and the direction?
Like, this guy's a Star Wars nerd.
I'm really not.
I can't believe you haven't mentioned it. Like, you're a huge Star Wars nerd, and that you listen to this podcast because it's basically a Star Wars podcast.
Yep, that is why.
There's not a lot going on in the
Bad Batch.
Bad Batch is I don't know if it's over or if it's not over yet.
No, it's not done.
I was like, I watched the last episode. There's no way they're ending it on that. Are you getting a little disappointed as the episodes go on? How are you feeling with the Bad Batch?
I'm very neutral about it. I know people like they'll get all jazzed up when they see like an old character show up.
Yeah,
like they were like, "Oh, Cad Bane's here."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whoop-de-friggin' do.
Never liked him.
It's like, look, a Star Wars character showed up in a Star Wars show.
He looked like a bug.
Yeah.
Don't like him. He's like a Clint Eastwood bug.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, have you been watching it, Jace?
Nope. I don't even know where to watch
Dude,
it.
you're a friggin' nerd.
What do you mean you don't even know where to watch it?
Is it on Disney?
Of course.
Of course it's on Disney.
All right.
No, it's
the
on
company that owns Star Wars.
I watched The Mandalorian. I mean, I didn't know.
How'd you watch The Mandalorian? Now you have to admit that you pirate it.
on Amazon.
No, I have Disney Plus, but yeah, that's
go
really
watch
the only
it.
one.
You
that I
don't watch Star Wars cartoons.
I tried watching the
Animated.
Clone Wars like several years ago. I watched like 3 episodes.
Dude, get into the Clone Wars. Skip to season 5 or 4, maybe 4.
No, watch the first 4. Power through.
Yeah, power through. That's what I say too. Get a hobby. Get some other hobby that doesn't really require much thought, and then just sort of knit while you have it going in the background or something.
Knitting. That's it. That'll be my new hobby.
Yeah.
What's the male version? Whittling.
Whittling.
Carve
little men with pipes coming out of their mouth.
Or
Yeah.
just a wood pipe.
Or a pipe. Jace's wood pipes.
Okay.
And okay, I guess we've kind of arrived at the end. Kind of a natural conclusion there.
Jace does not want to talk about Star Wars.
I don't
and
have
that's
anything
fine.
to add. I don't
He's got
know.
literally
Well, we learned that you're truly just a
nothing
casual.
to say. about
Are you
Star
going to
Wars.
commit to watching?
I watched The Mandalorian.
It's so much to say about sex, so little to say about Star Wars.
What does that say about his character?
You know, sexuality in Star Wars could definitely be improved. You know, Rose was just such a great character.
So hot.
And, yeah.
In the third episode.
She was a terrible character.
Not hot in the second one.
And a female character's worth is
based on
80,
sexual attraction.
80% their hotness.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. No,
Hot take.
I don't know much about like the new Star Wars stuff, I will admit. I haven't watched any of the new stuff besides like The Mandalorian, which I was like I enjoyed it, but because it wasn't it supposed to have like it had like a 10 million per episode or something. Like it was the same price tag as the last season of Game of Thrones, wasn't it? And I'm like, where's the budget? Like, where is the production in this?
I don't know if you can really make a 10 million per episode because they built that big, you know, special set for it. And I imagine that, like, I don't know, maybe they're distributing the cost of that across all the episodes plus whatever location shots they're doing. But
yeah. I guess I was expecting like a little bit more, perhaps, but I mean, I was also
because Game of Thrones is like the standard of good TV.
I was just going to say that the last season of Game of Thrones basically ruined that entire show, and I never want to watch it.
I wouldn't say it ruined it.
It did. Well, sorry. Okay, the last season and a half was atrocious.
It paints it in sort of a bad. I thought the second to last season was quite good. I quite enjoyed it.
It was. Yeah,
Battle of the Bastards.
But the last like little bit, it got weird. Like, I mean, wasn't that the season where they were like north of the Wall, and they're trudging along out there for like days on end?
Yo, I want to rewatch that.
And then they get trapped on that lake surrounded by the undead army, and
sick.
they send one dude to run back to the wall, and so he runs back and then sends a crow halfway, like the entire continent.
Got every sick character. They like all the best characters. They rounded them up, and they're like, go on a mission. And I was there for it, man.
It just didn't make like the timing though. Like the timing of stuff like that before would take them like days or weeks.
Jorah Mormont, Jon Snow,
the guy with the flame sword
guy.
That was it, right?
Is that everyone?
Yeah.
Those are the bad guys. Jorah, dude, I love Jorah Mormont, and y'all know who he is. What else was I gonna say? The High Republic, Star Wars, the High Republic.
Is that the movie?
It's like it's books. The
books.
New Republic, the High Empire. It's the It's like
they're making a trilogy of it, right?
It's the golden age of Star Wars. Do you care about that at all?
The books?
Just that.
I heard they're going to make movies about it, and that'll be neat. But my brain don't work so good anymore. I can't read books. I don't have time for like reading books. My brain just doesn't read books very well anymore. So
you're saying you don't study the scriptures?
Oh,
I've read them.
Yeah, I studied them already. Okay. I did a 2-year
been there,
college
done that.
course on it.
I've read them. I know what's in there.
I could answer every question in Sunday school, you know, backwards and forwards, okay?
Sometimes even sideways.
I can run circles around you regarding gospel knowledge, okay?
Yeah.
Probably true.
Or not.
Not about you specifically, just like whoever.
Just whoever we're talking
I'm
to.
really smart with the gospel, okay?
Chase, what other issues do we need to tackle here?
Anything else?
I think world hunger. We could probably try and solve that right now.
Check this out. Take all the Big Mac scraps, send them to Africa.
All of the middle buns.
Yes.
We just sacrificed one of our middle buns.
I think I can count on one hand the number of Big Macs I've had in my life. I think it's 2. It's not really a big
Get
fan.
out. We're done.
You know what, guys?
Last straw.
Thanks for Jace for showing up and bragging about his lack of a gag reflex and how he's so cool and he doesn't eat Big Macs.
Yeah.
So thanks to Jace. Email us all your concerns about
Yeah.
anything that happened in this episode.
Yeah.
Everything you disagree with, which will
Or
probably
agree
be
with.
everything.
Do we put like a disclaimer on this? Is this like a explicit?
You should put
You
a
were
thumbnail
pretty
of
explicit.
like a scantily clad woman.
No.
We should Photoshop a bunch of Instagram models in here.
Yeah.
No.
That's not tasteful.
It's not
And if
right.
and if there's anything this podcast is, it's tasteful. Because remember, life's a mission.
Do-do-do.
Bye.